Hi, this is where I talk about books and you're watching Sydney's channel. Okay, was that clever or was that just dumb? That was pretty dumb. Alrighty, my friends, this is the best it's gonna get. I also just got out of the shower, so I look like a wet rat. We're going to ignore that. Rhyme of the day. Today I bring to you my reading wrap up for August. This month, August. Oh my gosh. I didn't read that much in August is what I'm trying to say. Oh my goodness. Get it together. So I read a total of 9/8 books this month because one of them I'm kind of technically not counting because I listened to it on audiobook and barely paid attention to it, so I can't really tell you anything about it at all. So we're gonna say I read 8 books this month. We're gonna try harder in September and see if that ends up being a better reading month. But yes, welcome to another video. Thank you so much for being here, and we're just gonna get straight into all of the books that I read in August, and I'm going to go in order that I read them throughout the month, okay? Also, I should mention, if you follow me on Instagram or Goodreads, you may have seen some of my ratings for these books I'm about to talk about. I am going to be discussing them a little bit more in depth because I have some more thoughts to give now that it's been a little bit since I've read these books. And I realized that maybe August I was a little bit more critical than usual. I was a bit harsh with my ratings for some reason. If you think you know how I feel about a certain book, you probably don't. Just kidding, you probably do. I'm just here to talk about them a little bit more in depth because I have some notes, because I have some more thoughts. So we're just gonna get into it. Gonna stop trying to overcomplicate things. The first book that I read in August was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this is a very, very hyped up book. Everyone loves this book. Maybe it was my fault for going into it with such high expectations, but no, it really wasn't my fault. Because it's not entirely my fault. It's partially my fault, but y'all hyped it up a lot. A lot. So I don't know what I was necessarily expecting from this book, but it did let me down. I originally gave it 2 stars, and people are shocked by that. Understandably so, I guess. This is one that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit more in detail. Before, when I was planning this video out, I went through some of my books to like reassess and reanalyze how I felt and how the books made me feel. So I went and picked up this one and saw that I had dog-eared quite a bit. So I went through to check out what the dog ears were. There were some stunning quotes in here that I marked. Not actually marked or like underlined, but just like with the dog ear. Because I actually did think some of the writing in this was really, really beautiful. So I was like, oh man, maybe
I did judge this a little bit too much.
Because there were some parts in it that I did enjoy, that I did appreciate. So some of those quotes did have some really redeeming qualities for me. One is on page 64, on 117. I'm not gonna read the quotes just in case of spoilers or whatever. There was another pretty good one-ish that I liked. It was pretty sad, but on page 189. And then my last 2 dog ears were parts that pissed me off, kinda, that made me angry. So I think by the time I got to the end and the second half of the book, I completely forgot about the parts that I did enjoy in the beginning. So still don't love this as much as everyone else does, but I do think it was a beautiful story. It was just the execution and Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing style that was just not my vibe, unfortunately. Some pretty unlikable characters for sure. I don't like reading about unlikable characters. You will hear that more when I talk about another book in this pile. So with all that being said, yes, I originally gave it 2 stars, but I think I'm going to be nice and bump it up because of going back and reading some of the stunning quotes that I did love. So I think I'm going to give it a 3-star now. Instead of 2, I'm going to give it a 3-star. But yeah, so this was the first book that I read in my travel reading vlog when I went to Mammoth, California. If you haven't watched that vlog, I will link it so you can watch it. But then the next book that I read was an audiobook, and that was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. And I thought this was a good murder mystery. It's set on a remote island during a wedding. Overall average, I think. I didn't have any like crazy moments of like falling in love with it, and I didn't hate it either. So it was pretty average. There are multiple POVs and lots of characters introduced right off the bat. You follow the bride, the groom, best man, maid of honor. I'm sorry, not maid of honor, but bridesmaid, the +1, and the wedding planner. So then things go down on the night of the wedding at the reception. All of the lights go out and a body is found, and so then throughout the whole book you're reading the perspectives of all of these people at the wedding, trying to figure out first of all who is the killer and then who is dead. So yeah, it's a whole murder mystery thing that's really fun. But I did guess the killer like right away. As soon as it was that person's POV chapter, by the end of it I was like, it's this person. So that was kind of cool. I guessed who it was, but I didn't guess why, and I didn't guess who died either. Anyway, so yeah, that was pretty fun, pretty average like I said. And then the next book I read was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I decided to give TJR a second chance like right away because I was really excited about this one specifically because I was going to be in California the same week I was there for camping and hiking in Mammoth for that vlog, and so then I was able to go to Malibu to read this, and that was super fun. I also have a vlog of that. If you missed it, you can watch it. But yeah, I had a super fun time reading this on the beaches of Malibu. It was super cool to be in the setting and be reading about that setting specifically. Like I was there, like right in Paradise Cove and Point Doom Beach and all of that, like that they talk about in the book. So that was really fun. It was also a beautiful day. So, oh, I forgot to say the guest list, I gave 3 stars as well. I forgot to say that. So then Malibu Rising I really enjoyed. I ended up giving it 4 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. This was a pretty solid story, but being in Malibu 100% helped my enjoyment of the story. But I did really love the main character Nina, who is the daughter of Mick Riva, the famous singer that we follow. So it's the story of these 4 famous kids and their life in Malibu. And so then there's this party that's going to be held at Nina's house. The whole book is leading up to, so there's timestamps like on every chapter, but then throughout that there's flashbacks to how their parents met and their whole story. So there's lots of time jumps and perspective changes, which I actually kind of really enjoy if it's done well. So I think that's what I did like about this. But yeah, so then there's the party that happens at the end of the book and things go horribly wrong, ends up being a disaster. There's all this family drama, just lots of stuff going on. But I really loved it. A very good summery contemporary to read. Pretty emotional, I'd say. Not like I cried or anything, but just like it's not a light fun summer read. It had some good vibes, but there were also some like very intense family problems. You know, lots of family drama, but it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Then the next book that I read, technically it was the audiobook that I hardly paid attention to, and that was The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. I just don't even know why I continued with listening to this book because it didn't grip me right away, and I totally tuned out through the entire thing, so I have no idea what it's about other than there's like paranormal aspects and he is a closeted boy who is dealing with all that kind of stuff. I don't know, I just wasn't in the right headspace. I wasn't in the mood to read it. It wasn't my vibe at the time, so I hardly cared for this, didn't pay attention, basically didn't read it. It's irrelevant for this video, I'm sorry. I'm not even gonna really give it a rating because that's not fair to the book. So we're just gonna move on to the next thing I read, which, okay, we've got some words. We've got some words for this one. Literally my notes are both pages for this one. My other ones have like just 1 page, half a page. For this next book, I have 2 full pages. Okay, and that is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. It's beautiful, right? Beautiful. But the inside is ugly, okay? I originally gave this 1 star. Completely disappointed. Right away, I hated this. Well, kind of right away. Like, I meant like right away after finishing it, I hated it. I thought maybe at the end, like it would pull through at least a little bit to make it not a 1 star. But there were many times where I just wanted to DNF it. Unfortunately, I was too bored. I was too bored. and I was really, really excited for it. The quote on here by Charlene Harris says, "Sizzles with action, originality, and a gleaming concept sharp as a scalpel." And I read that and I was like, you know, that's true, right? But that doesn't mean it was good. Nothing about that really says this is a good book. It says sizzles with action, originality, and a gleaming concept sharp as a scalpel. Like, it was original, it was unique, and it tried, but it wasn't good. I did not care for Grady Hendrix's writing style in this. It just didn't work for me, but I'm willing to give him another try. I would love to read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I think that's what it is. It's the longest book title ever. And My Best Friend's Exorcism and all of his other books I'd love to give a try. So comment down below which one you think maybe I would like the most. Anyway, so I just didn't like this one. This story follows mainly Lynette Tarkington, who is one of these 6 final girls that meet in this support group with their therapist, and they have been meeting for the past like 10 plus years. And so Lynette has survived a massacre like 22 years ago and is dealing with lots of PTSD and paranoia and overall looniness from what she went through, understandably. So it follows her and her experiences and the friendships slash just relationships, her relationships with the other 5 final girls. They're all trying to meet in secret to further protect themselves from danger. But then one of the girls goes missing and all hell breaks loose for Lynette. She starts freaking out and thinks, you know, that the world is over for them. She thinks that someone's out to get them, or that someone knows that they're meeting, and so that they're, you know, trying to kill the final girls, I guess. I don't know. So what I didn't like at all was, first of all, the plot twist. We were running around in circles, first of all. I was like, okay, just who is it? Like, what's going on here? Like, no one really cares. I don't really care. And then the plot twist was like, really? What? Are you sure? Like, are you sure that's what you want to happen? Because, like, I don't like that. But the pacing also was all over the place. It was really, really slow when it needed to be fast, and it was really fast when it needed to be slow. So it just missed the mark there completely. And also, I think this is a personal preference thing, but I don't like it when books are narrated from unreliable sources, unreliable POVs. I never know when to trust the main character, if what's happening is actually something that's supposed to be thrilling to me. Like, if it's just something she's blowing out of proportion, if she's just crazy, I don't know if I should believe her. She's freaking talking to her plant. I mean, I do that, but like, come on. To a certain extent, you don't actually like talk to your plant and you don't think your plant is talking back to you. I love plants, but I'm not gonna talk to them like Lynette does in here. But yes, she's crazy. I get that. I just don't like it. Again, unlikable characters. I wasn't rooting for them. I didn't care what happened at all. But, there's a big old but here, okay? I know I'm totally trashing this book right now, and I'm looking at a certain couple of you that are very, very sad at what I'm saying right now. But I want to say what I did like about this book. Some scenes did make me laugh out loud, and then at the end, a little bit in the beginning and kind of in the middle, there was the topic of just like life and death, creation and destruction. That whole discussion I did enjoy, and there were a handful of quotes and phrases in this one as well that I did appreciate. So again, I did enjoy parts of Hendrix's writing, but the style of it definitely didn't jive with me. Overall, I was bored. Because I went through, I know you can't really see my annotations that well because I used red for the red sprayed edges, but I did go back through and look at some of the quotes that I had tabbed and was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I did like that. So maybe 1 star is a little too much. I'm sorry. So we are bumping it up to a 2-star. Still not great. Still not even close to being a favorite book, but it's not a 1-star. I hope that makes you feel a little bit better. Not that I'm changing my rating for you, but I think maybe 1 star was a little bit too mean. So 2 stars. 2 out of 5 stars for this guy. Whew, catch my breath after that rant. My goodness. All right, next. What did I read? I read Beatrix by Emily Henry. This was a super, super cute book. As you guys know, I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry that I love. with my whole heart and a half. Like, yeah. But so this one I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars because I didn't love it as much as People We Meet on Vacation, but that is no fault to this book. That's just because this is a enemies to lovers as opposed to People We Meet on Vacation is friends to lovers, which is by far my favorite trope. I don't love an enemies to lovers always, unless there's like a fake dating trope with that also. But this one is also very much more like academic. You're following very intellectual characters because they are 2 authors, January and Gus. And January writes romance novels and Gus writes literary fiction. So they end up living next door to each other in these lake houses on Lake Michigan. And so they're rivals because of the whole author writing books thing. And so then they strike a deal with each other to help the other person write in the other person's genre. So they have to go on dates to help Gus write romance, and Gus takes January to these interviews with people who have had traumatic experiences to help her write literary fiction. So they're forced to like work together, and you know, enemies to lovers, they realize, you know, maybe the other person's not that bad. So then they start to kindle the relationship, right? That's how it works. But there's also a little bit of a miscommunication trope in here, I feel like, which, you know, we don't always love, but it happens in real life. But yeah, so I thought this was pretty cute. They're sophisticated characters, but they do have a little bit of a banter. Not the greatest, like their banter wasn't as good to me as it was for Poppy and Alex and People We Meet on Vacation, but it was really, really fun. I did enjoy it and gave it 4 stars. All right, and then the next book I read was Mute by Tammy Charles. I got this from my library, and it is a novel written in verse about 3 girls who are aspiring to be R&B singers. They want to get big with their singing careers, so they go to this concert of their favorite R&B artist, and they get noticed by him and asked to like write songs with him and go record in his studio and all of this. So then there's drama with the families not being okay with the dream that mostly the main character has. Her name is Denver, and so like her family is just not okay with her pursuing music. They want her to go to college and all that kind of stuff. So she has to figure out how to make it happen herself without having her family's support, and so she ends up leaving home to go live in this house with this R&B singer, but quickly her dreams turn into nightmares, basically. Don't want to say too much because of spoilers, but I did enjoy it. I don't normally pick up verse because I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I did just see it at the library and I was like, I'll give it a try just because it'll go really, really quickly. I read it in less than 24 hours. But yeah, it wasn't bad. I thought it was actually really well written in terms of like bringing out the emotion in such few words. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. All right, and finally, the last book that I read, that is also my favorite book of the month, I think. The only book that I ended up giving 5 stars, and that is 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. I loved this book, and I was scared because there were mixed reviews on it, and I don't know necessarily why. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't know why people didn't just kind of like try a little harder to like it. Like, I can understand why some people might not have loved this, but I really, really, really loved it. So if you don't know, this is actually a story about the pandemic, and I believe it's like the first big one that's come out since everything. So I think that's kind of made it a hit or miss for people to want to pick up in the first place. I personally like didn't care or didn't feel like it was too soon to pick up a book about what happened to us in 2020. I thought it would actually be kind of interesting to read about it. So it is a quarantine thriller romance that follows Sierra and Oliver, who meet just before the first lockdown in Dublin, Ireland, and they move in together like super quickly. Things move super fast and they hardly know each other, and they just, you know, start to freak out because now they're quarantined together pretty much. So it's very, very slow paced. It switches perspectives to tell you some of the same scenes you already read. So it can feel repetitive when you're literally reading the same dialogue you already read just a few pages before. Sometimes it's a little bit more spread out than a few pages, but it's like deja vu moments where it's like, I already read this. but it's actually just from a different person's perspective. And I thought that that was a little bit weird, but by the end of it, I think it totally worked with this story. It is very slow paced because it's so dragged out. It gives you nothing. Like, you're constantly wondering what the heck is happening and what is going on because they don't give you anything. She literally leaves you hanging after every single chapter. It frustrates me so much, but it also just like engages me so much more, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just tell me what's going on. I'm so confused. There's lots of time jumps. Like, you really got to pay attention when you're reading this book, actually. And this took me about 6 days to finish, and I was just like, my brain was fried because there's so many perspective changes. You're following Sierra's perspective, then Oliver, and then the detective who finds the body after the 56 days, you know, goes 56 days ago, and then like 38 days ago, and then today, and then back to 78 days ago, and then, you know, it's just all over the place. But if you're really paying attention and you're really invested in it, it is so good. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think she did a really great job with this. If you didn't know, the tagline is, no one even knew they were together, now one of them is dead. And I think that's the perfect tagline to hook you. But then you get into the story and there's so much more happening, so much more to it that just makes you wonder. Like, I was left wondering what was happening up until the very last page. So I really loved this. Yeah, super, actually pretty surprised by how much I loved it. So really great thriller. I would definitely recommend if you like thrillers that make you think and kind of make you work for it. You really have to be paying attention. But just like, yeah, I don't want to say much else, but it was really good. So maybe give it a shot if you're into thrillers, especially romance thrillers. I feel like there's not many romance thrillers out there. The only other one I read was Verity. Oh shoot, I read Verity this month. This wasn't the last book I read. I have one more to talk about. Okay, so I also read Verity, but what I was saying is I feel like there's not that many thriller romance books out there, that many. So if you know of any, besides 56 Days and Verity by Colleen Hoover, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, oh my gosh, I forgot to talk about Verity. I read that after I read The Final Girl Support Group. This was for my family book club pick. So I read this on my Kindle, and I really loved the immersiveness of this story and how it made me gasp out loud. It made me have so many visceral reactions. I was freaking out. My blood pressure was through the roof. It was so good, totally gripping and insane. So this freaked me out. It was a great thriller, and I ended up giving it 4.5/4.75 out of 5 stars because of the ending. We'll get into that in a second, but this was my first Colleen Hoover read. I would be interested to see if she writes another thriller in the future, but I am very much looking forward to reading all of her popular, well-known romance books as well. So let me know which one you think I should read first, because I haven't read any of them yet, and if you think I should vlog it. If you would like to see that, let me know. But yeah, so with this story, my jaw was literally on the floor. It was very intense and very graphic. Like, this story goes hard. It's pretty intense. So the reason it wasn't a 5-star is because by the end of it, I feel like there were several holes and parts in the story that I feel like weren't cleared up in the end. I was really confused. I was left with lots of questions, which isn't always necessarily bad for a thriller, but this one in particular needed to tie up some loose ends, in my opinion. So I was very confused at the end, and I didn't love the plot twist. Like, it was still shocking, but it felt a little cheap. It wrapped up too quickly. It wasn't dramatic enough for me. I think it could have been a little bit more intense, because throughout the whole book it was just getting crazier and crazier and crazier, but the ending was just not that crazy. I feel like I was a little disappointed, not gonna lie, but I still loved how this book was able to make me feel so many emotions. It was able to get so many reactions of me, and just reminded me of why I love thrillers. So it was so close to being a 5-star, but the ending just, I didn't love it. But yeah, okay, so then yeah, those are all the books that I read in August. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to follow me on Goodreads or Instagram, they are linked down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.